So for me, the top three reasons why the market is corrected is bull markets create weak investors create bear markets create strong investors, and strong investors create bull markets again.
If I were to ask you top three sectors,
But what I do as an investor, I'll tell you, wealth is only created in a bear market.
I think Sonia, we should start from what happened today in the news. I mean, what we saw in the news today.
Yeah,
Elections, Maharashtra elections. Um, I,
absolutely.
I mean, did you expect such a one-sided result?
Not at all. Not at
Right?
all. It's a land sweep and it's like a
Exactly.
landslide, really, literally, right?
True, true.
But I for one am very excited about this because I think personally, I mean, keeping your political sort of affiliations aside, I think personally what Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, Eknath Shinde particularly, what they're doing for Bombay, and now that it's just consolidation of votes, right? I think making the BJP stronger from a market standpoint, from an investor standpoint, I think it's a very big positive. And now you'll see, because Mumbai is the financial hub, you will
True.
see so much more progress, infrastructure. Anyway, we've seen connectivity rise, all of that. And I think the growth that we've seen so far, Rachana, is something that will continue. So, keeping all the political affiliations aside, I feel like the government is doing a lot to sort out a lot of the infrastructure issues, growth issues, connectivity issues. And I, for one, am quite happy because from a market standpoint, it's something that, is positive. And it's
Absolutely.
something that we need right now in terms of positive, any positive catalyst.
Absolutely. But there are so many investors who get confused that if it's a national level election, then people can understand the correlation of a national election result with the stock market. That okay, it's about policy decisions at India level. It's about high level decisions which impact the overall economy per se. But do you feel that even state market elections, state elections, do have an impact on stock market?
So I'll tell you one thing. This
Mhm.
is what I have learned being an investor, being a stock market observer, commentator for 16, 17 years. Eventually, all these political, events are at best 1 or 2 day events, right?
Correct. Correct.
Even national elections for that matter. Okay, it helps a lot because the government at the center, as you said, takes a lot of the decisions, takes a lot of the legislative decisions, which are in effect helpful for the market. But at the end of the day, a bull market is based on fundamental growth, right?
True.
Earnings growth, that's all. That's the fact of it. And whoever comes into power now, because we have a government for 3 terms that's come into power, it's actually helped them. Whatever decisions they took in the first term, they could execute in the second term, and now we are seeing the fruits of it in the third term. So
True.
that is something that's stable. Now, state elections, I honestly feel Maharashtra state elections, it's a sentiment positive,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's really going to move the needle of the market too much, honestly.
Okay. Okay. Because the moment the election results came out today, I started getting so many messages. Upper circuit tomorrow question mark. I was like, oh, this is too much of a speculation.
Yeah, it is. It is too much of speculation. And I think people are just looking to latch on to that one thing, which, will sort of give them a ray of hope that, okay, maybe the market will recover on Monday.
Mhm.
But the market, and of course, we'll discuss this over the next
Yeah.
15,
Yeah.
20 minutes as well. The market has many different factors that are playing right now. And we
Yeah.
need to be very cognizant of the fact that just one state election win is not going to change the trajectory of the market. Yes, it is a sentiment boost for sure. It's a sentiment positive. But, we are just, we cannot latch on to it thinking that, oh, it will completely turn the fortunes of the market.
True. True. So typically, when we say that when we are in a correction, it could happen that such opportunities give investors to sell on rise. So could
Yes.
that be a possible? Because we saw a very nice up move on Friday. Many people are expecting that to continue on Monday. So
Mm.
typically, when we are in a bull market, any dip is considered to be like buy on rise.
Buy on dips.
But when buy on dip, sorry, yes. And when we are in a correction phase, any
Yeah.
uptick will be treated as a sell on rise.
Sell on
So
rise. Yeah. A lot of people even are talking about how this rally on Friday was preempting the
exactly,
fact that
exactly.
the Maharashtra elections would be a sweeping win for BJP. Yeah, so that was also there. But let's just take 2 steps back and look at where we are in the market, right? So right now the Nifty is down about 10% from the top. This
Absolutely.
is not a bear market, just to make everyone very clear. Every day people, message me, call me, oh, we are in a big crash, bear market. This is not a bear market. This is still a correction. It's a corrective phase where the market has come down 10% from the top. Now, forget bear market. This is not even the start of the corrective phase. Let me be very honest. There are a lot of corrective phases which are in two parts. There's time-wise correction and price-wise correction. We have seen a 10% price-wise correction, but there could be, Rachna, very long time-wise correction also. Right. So right now, as you said rightly, we are in a corrective phase. So when we are in a corrective phase, what happens generally is that every good news is used as a sell-on rally.
Yeah.
Right. So the rally that we could see, perhaps short covering rally that we could see on Monday, could be sold into, for all you know.
Correct.
But the important part to realize here is this, that the kind of, I mean, okay, if we see the high, right, the Nifty's high was 26,200. Now we are at what, around 23,500 or so, right? It's a barely a 3,000 point fall. Put it into context from the COVID low of
True.
2020. If you see the chart, there has
Absolutely.
been no fall at all.
Absolutely.
So that rise that we saw from 8,000, which was a COVID low, to 26,000, if you see the chart, it's just been higher tops and higher bottoms. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
been no fall. In that context, a 3,000 point fall is minuscule. So I
Absolutely.
feel this is still a healthy correction. It's not moved to that unhealthy correction stage yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could continue. Now, as I said, the Maharashtra election results is a one-day thing. The way it
True.
reacts, market will knee-jerk reaction and it will settle down. But in effect, we are in a corrective phase of the market. It's important to understand that first and foremost.
But then, if I were to go back to why did this happen?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has their own thought process, but if I would love to know your thought process as well. I'm sure there'll be multiple factors, but if you
Yeah.
could tell like top three, four reasons that you feel.
So for me, the top three reasons why the market is corrected is high valuations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll talk about that in detail. Then weak earnings,
Mm-hmm.
rising US bond yields,
Mm-hmm.
and the Trump trade. Four things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I mean, if we just start with valuations, right?
Okay.
Currently, the Nifty, I think, roundabout is trading at a 12-month PE of or forward PE of 20 times after the
Correct.
correction.
Yeah.
Right? The long period average of the Nifty is 20 times. So
Correct.
even after the correction of 10%, it's not become cheap. It's still
Hmm.
just as per the long period average. This is
True.
the Nifty index. If you
Yeah.
look at what's happening beneath the surface, mid cap index, right? The mid
Correct.
cap index is currently trading at the NSE mid cap 100 index is trading at about 29 times forward PE,
Mm-hmm.
which is, yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing all the, in mid-cap end, so whether it's railway stocks, defense stocks, all of
Yeah.
these stocks coming off quite a bit, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the valuations are very, very high. So that
True.
is one thing. It's just reverting to mean a lot of
Yeah.
these frothy valuations are correcting.
Correct.
Then, of course, Rachna, we all know earnings slowdown.
Yeah.
I was just reading a Motilal Oswal report which they put out. They put out one report every quarter after they finish with earnings. In
Okay.
that, they said that this is the second consecutive quarter of single-digit profit growth in their coverage universe. The Nifty growth
Oh.
has been only 4% in profits for
Oh.
second consecutive quarter. So last quarter in Q1, they saw single-digit growth and they thought it's an aberration.
Mm-hmm.
Second quarter, now only 4% profit growth, which means that the earnings are being scaled down. And we'll
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about that in greater detail as well. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the second reason, right? The
Got it.
third reason is rising US bond yields, and that also we'll get into details if you wish. But the
Sure.
bond yields now 4.4%, I think it's touched.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
generally, when US bond yields rise, emerging markets come under pressure. And
Absolutely.
then there is today only, in fact, I was discussing, I had a Vikas Khemani on a show that I'm doing.
Okay.
And he was telling me that this Trump trade is generally, something that happens when, so it's I mean, now of course it's election based, but
Mhm.
generally there is a cyclical trade where this India versus China. So
Yeah.
FI is moving money out of India and into China. It's very cyclical in nature. So these
Mm-hmm.
are three or four reasons why we have seen the correction. So there's high valuations, there's weak earnings, there's the rising US bond yield, and the Trump trade.
Got it. But typically what happens is that when we are in a bull phase, market just ignores the valuations.
Yes.
So, right? So
Yeah.
maybe when we were around 23,000, 24,000, everyone knew that all these mid-cap stocks are overvalued.
Correct.
Still, it were going up.
Yeah.
I mean, how does this happen that everyone does keep on talking about frothy valuations, this, that, but still market, rises? There are some retail individual investors who are going to go like into those stocks at the highest possible point, and
Yeah.
then the whole story is going to talk about, "Arey, it was overvalued. That is the reason why they crashed." So why markets ignore PE when everything is good, and why market first points out to PE when market starts going up?
There's just one reason for that, and that is FOMO. Retail
Okay.
investor FOMO.
Yeah.
Okay. They always say that at the peak of the bull market is when retail investors enter, right?
Mm, mm,
Because of FOMO. Now, I remember Vijay Kedia ji had made one statement and it became very popular. I'm sure you must have heard it, where he
mm.
said that bull markets create weak investors create bear markets create strong investors, and strong investors create bull markets again. So it's
Amazing,
that
amazing.
that cycle, keeps
Good
going
reminder.
on and on.
Yeah,
And that's just how it is. That's the
yeah,
duality of the market, right? So what happens generally is when retail enters into, they enter at a time when the valuations are frothy. And
true.
that's what happened. Like you see in our defense, you see PSUs, you see PSU banks, you see railway companies. I mean,
Mm.
the P's are astronomical for no reason. But that is when everyone and their relatives are all sitting and buying. When your friends call you and say, Acha, today can I buy yeah, PSU stocks? Abhi, can I
Yeah,
also? And not only PSUs, even look at valuations of, say, companies like Dixon Technology. When
correct.
Dixon Technologies hit 12,000 and people start calling you and say, Acha, I should buy Dixon now. You
Yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah.
that's when you know that, so
Bus ho
that's
gaya
a
abhi.
very typical, it's very typical in bull market and bear market cycles.
True, true, true. You also mentioned about one point about the cyclical nature, about how FIIs, shift base from India to China, from China to
Hmm.
India. I think recently there was some institutions report where they have again put overweight on India, and they have said that we would want to shift our focus back from China to India. So
CNSA.
yes, 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 yes. I forgot the name. Oh, yes, you're right. It's CLSA. So if you would want to talk on that, why
So
and how it happens?
I don't know. I'm you can edit this out or whatever, but I feel a lot of brokerages are very late in the game, right? When the whole trade has gotten over, then they come in and they say, now it's very easy, and a lot of them also are very biased because of their weightages
Yeah.
or whatever, right? So don't go by that. I just feel like what happens is, if you see China, if you see the last 6 months, China has collapsed. The
Mm,
property market has collapsed. The stock market has collapsed. So it's just a cyclical nature of money moving out of India and into China, where the valuations are looking good. Like we were saying, valuations for India had become frothy. So
yeah.
it's just a cyclical nature of how FIIs move their money out of India and into China. And
Mm,
that's why you've seen 40,000 crores of selling that FIIs have done
true,
in.
true.
But what happened in our market is, because the domestic money was so strong, we have not felt. FIs have actually been selling for a while, Rachna.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely,
it's just that the domestic market was so strong that we never felt
absolutely, absolutely.
that dip. But
Yeah.
now, of course, the once the FI money became, like, the selling became too much. I think 40,000 crores in November. That's when you started feeling that. And it's like, despite FI selling 40,000 crores in November, it's a 10% fall from the
I
top.
think October it was like 1 lakh crore. I mean, last month I think it crossed 1 lakh number if I'm not mistaken.
Per month.
Yeah, if I'm
I'm not sure of October. I don't remember, but November number I know was 40,000 crores. Yeah.
I'll ask
Yeah,
someone to
we
check.
can check.
But yeah, Akshay is there on
Someone's
the call.
replied. Yeah.
Someone has
1.14
replied.
lakh crores.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember it was beyond 1 lakh crores. Yeah. So I think, I mean, had it been in the past where it would have been like 1 lakh crore plus in October, followed by a 40K crore in November, I mean, it would have just crashed the whole market. I mean,
Exactly.
right? In that context, we're still okay right now with the domestic money flowing in the market.
Yeah, yeah, of course, we are okay. And I think retail money has
Mhm.
become very strong, right? If you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
SIPs also, monthly SIPs now, 25,000 crores or whatever, there
absolutely.
was some
Yeah,
number.
yeah, yeah,
And
you're
that is
right.
the highest ever that we've
True.
seen in terms of monthly SIPs. So I feel financialization of assets is a big theme that this market is seeing. And hats off to guys like you who have been doing the work for so long and, educating people and sort of democratizing the information to people, right, that they never got, because of which people, even in rural, like today only we were discussing, I was discussing with Vikas Khemani, that he was telling me that, people sitting in his hometown in Rajasthan, he comes from a very small village. He was saying
Okay.
over there also people now are upgrading their lifestyle. They will be earning maybe 30,000, but they'll still
Hmm.
1,000 rupees ka SIP karenge. They
Very
will
nice.
still be, buying better biscuits, buying better everything. They're trying to upgrade their lifestyle in every
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. So you also mentioned something about Trump trade. So would want to know on that as well.
About Trump,
Yeah. About how
uh,
Trump's win could impact I mean, could it impact China versus India story?
I feel Trump's win is positive for India. I
Yeah.
feel for the longer run,
Mm.
because if there is any anti-China, rhetoric from Trump, then that could, people would perhaps move money out of China into India and all of that. And I
Correct.
think, I mean, of course, Trump and Modi ji have that kind of relationship and all of that. So I think Trump in effect is positive for India.
Mhm.
But I also feel that, yeah, I mean, maybe my view is a bit simplistic. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot more into it. But I also feel like, Trump is doing a lot of things that maybe we need to think about. Like, for example, this whole crypto move, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody in India caught the crypto rally. I can be
Yeah.
the most savviest, astute investors have stayed out of crypto. But
True.
Bitcoin has really been the biggest trade of 2024 so far,
True. True.
right?
I think it has
40%
touched
right.
1 lakh, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Not yet touched.
But almost
I think
close to
last I
that.
checked was
Ah,
$99,000.
exactly. Almost
But
close to that. Huh?
just see 40% rally since November 5th, right?
Yeah.
Since the presidential election.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that he's also, the old order is changing.
True.
So we need to kind of also as investors learn to adapt.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, I'm being very honest. I missed out on the on the crypto trade
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
Although my brother is a Bitcoin investor, and he would keep
Oh,
telling me, invest, and I didn't understand it. So I
true.
didn't do it. But I feel just because you don't understand something, that doesn't mean you can't adapt to it. China
Hmm.
has now made Bitcoin legal, crypto legal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Trump is doing a lot to, that. So basically, there's a SEC head, US SEC, the financial regulator there. The head of US SEC is now going to resign. He is anti-crypto, and now they are taking a
Oh.
pro-crypto woman who's going to be the SEC in charge. She's Trump's favorite. So can you believe all of this is happening?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, of course, in India, there is a lot of, I mean, crypto is still not legal tender,
Yeah.
but there is a taxation angle on it, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
there could be a framework, there could be a regulatory framework put in place. Now, you should never chase assets that are rising so much. That is fair, that is one point, but you should at least be aware and cognizant that there is a new person in charge, there's a new administration. These are the changes that can happen.
Correct. So I typically call that as a party fund allocation. If I were to ask you top three sectors which you would focus on from, let's say, a 3 to 5 year perspective, wherein investors should think about investing in bits and pieces from now.
Hmm. So for me, I mean, and please don't take these as recommendations. I'm not SEBI registered. I do my own personal investments, my family, but these are just take your own registered RIA's advice. For me, the big three investment arena, one would be financialization of assets, financialization of savings. So whether it is companies like, say, BSE, the unlisted NSE, or CDSL, or all the brokerage companies of the world, all of that, right? That's a big growth area for me.
The capital market theme.
The capital market theme, yeah, that's one theme. Then the other theme is just the digitization theme, right? So, for example, I am very positive on this whole quick commerce space. Of course, the
Mhm.
rally has been phenomenal in it so far. So now there are questions on, say, valuations and all of that. But whether it's Swiggy, whether it's Zomato, just the whole infrastructure growing, it is a duopolistic market currently. Both players, there's enough and more. Penetration has still not happened in tier two, tier three cities. And
Correct.
there are two things, Rachana, that really I think about, right? One is the per capita GDP of India. right? So if you go back to what happened in China between 2010 and 2015, China's per capita GDP went to $3,000, and
Okay.
once that $3,000 level hit, right,
Uh-huh.
post that there was a huge consumption boom.
Oh,
And
okay.
India is now at about $2,200.
Yeah.
Taking everyone into consideration, of course, there is an argument that if you remove the 1% of the top creme,
Yeah.
then India is
Yeah.
still at 1,900, 1,800. But still, overall, if you see, India is about $2,200 per capita GDP. So there's just a matter of time before we get to 3,000 and see that consumption boom. And
True.
that is one theme. The other theme is urbanization, right?
Yeah.
You see people moving from tier 2, tier 3 cities to tier 1 cities, rural to urban. You see the massive urbanization in, states like in cities like Bangalore, not just metros, outside as well, right? People are in
Correct.
fact moving to now from Mumbai to say a tier 1 city or tier 2
Mm,
city because
mm,
of, pollution, population, all of that.
true.
So I feel that is also a big theme, urbanization
Mm, mm-hmm.
and the per capita GDP. So these are a couple of themes which I really. So urbanization would include everything. Premium. Look at the premium
Correct.
end of the market, right? Whether it's
Mm,
luxury, whether it is luxury cars, luxury real estate. Look at all the stocks, right? M&M
yeah.
is close to its 52-week high. Oberoi
Mm,
Realty is at a 52-week high. Indian Hotels is at an all-time high.
yeah.
48 lakh weddings are going to happen in the next 1 month in this auspicious period, right?
Mm,
These people who are doing their weddings have to book hotels for people to stay.
yeah.
That's why
True.
Indian hotels is at all-time high.
I think there was a news also that they are going to increase. They have, I think, a 2030 target that they have.
Yes, yes, yeah.
I read about that.
That came out on Friday, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So these are big themes. I feel like also this happened in China when this
Mm,
whole boom was happening,
yeah.
when this infrastructure boom was happening in China. Two things happened at that time. One is that the gap between the rich and the poor went up,
Mm.
which means that the rich were consuming more. That's why
The
luxury
premium
you're
products.
seeing,
Mm,
premium
mm,
products. So you're seeing
mm.
luxury do very well. On the other
Yeah.
side, the poor is struggling. So jobs are still an issue. Inflation is still hitting the poor. And the other thing that happened is massive rise in pollution because of
Oh,
infrastructure picking up. Yeah. The
oh.
exact same thing. It's a playbook of what was happening in China. So infrastructure picked up in a huge way, and there was a massive surge in pollution. So these
Mm,
are two things that make me believe firmly that India is on track. Of course,
mhm.
see now you can't. It's not an apples to apples comparison India and China
True.
because India is such a big democracy.
Yeah.
Given the democracy constraints, right? Given the
Yeah.
constraints in a democracy, India is doing a phenomenal job.
True.
I mean, China with its authoritarian or dictatorship, whatever, in that framework, they could grow at a really fast pace.
Mm, mm, mm.
But India with the democracy is it's not an apples to apples comparison. But I think if you look at what was happening in that boom phase in China, it's pretty much what's happening now in India.
The the big difference that you talked about, right? Like the premiumization thing, but the poor struggling. I think a very nice thing that Nilesh Shah ji, I had an opportunity to hear him Kotak. So he was telling that from his office cabin, from one side of the window, he can see NMACC, the Nita Mukesh
Mm,
Ambani Cultural
mm,
Center, which is like the posh location where the best of the events take place. Even Ambani wedding took place there. And on this side, he said, on this side of the window, he can see Dharavi and all the big slum areas. So he said that is actually what India is right now. You can see the
correct.
best in place and you can also see the poorest in place. But we
Yeah.
have to accept that and we have to think accordingly. Exactly the point that you mentioned about premiumization and even simultaneously the consumption story picking up.
Correct,
So,
correct. Even it's same thing for me. So when I was working in Lower Parel,
mhm,
I would walk down the road, and there was a stand where we would have chai and all of that.
uh,
I would walk down that road. On one hand, there was the slums, and on the other hand, there was the Lodha World One, right?
yeah,
So and of course, the most premium coffee shops and the premium, and then exactly on the other side of the road
yeah,
is
yeah,
the slum dwellers. So
true,
yeah,
true.
I mean that is a duality of Bombay as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So you were talking about three sectors. Right now, you have talked about, I think, capital market as one theme. Second one,
Yeah.
you talked about premiumization. Is the third one consumption, or you would want to club it up under two only?
So yeah, consumption in the sense, I feel like there are two, three things happening in consumption.
Okay.
There is, of course, premiumization is one, right?
Mhm.
So your real estate, your cars,
Auto.
luxury cars,
Yeah.
auto, not all auto, but like luxury cars mostly.
Mhm.
Two-wheelers, I think, is still struggling. And then you have consumption, real estate, luxury cars, even quick commerce, right? Quick
Yeah. Yeah.
commerce is a part of that, which I think, like, whether it's Zomato doing their live events and all of these shows selling out, whether it's, Diljit Dosanjh, Coldplay, all of
Yeah.
these, just selling out in minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of that is in the premium end. And then you have one disruption that's happening in the FMCG space, which I
Mhm.
think is very interesting to me. So the
Okay.
traditional companies, if you saw in this quarter, whether it's Marico, Dabur, HUL,
Mhm.
Asian Paints is another category we'll talk about, but Marico, Dabur, HUL, all are talking about slowdown in consumption.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But the question is that is it a slowdown in Britannia, right? For example, take
Yeah.
biscuits. Is it
Hmm.
that people are consuming lesser biscuits because inflation is hitting their pocket, or is it that we are just become healthier as a nation?
Hmm.
Right? Like
Hmm.
in my house, for example, 10 years ago, my parents would eat biscuits with chai. Today
Correct.
they don't. They
Yeah.
eat homemade, stir fry choda, whatever they make at home, because they are aware that, and India is a like diabetes hub of the world.
True. True. True.
In every home, one person will be having diabetes. So people are now educating themselves. So people are consuming lesser biscuits, lesser, things with palm oil, lesser. That's why these traditional not media, traditional FMCG companies are
Mhm.
struggling,
Mhm.
right? So that is a disruption.
Correct.
So in that, you need to understand where to churn out,
Yeah.
right? It's not only about buying good stocks, it's also about avoiding losses. Right.
True.
And avoiding opportunity cost. I mean, if you're in a Dabur expecting, oh, consumption is going up, so Dabur will go up. No, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
True.
Dabur still has products which are high in palm oil, high in cornstarch, high in hydrogenated oil, uh, food packaged as healthy but totally junk. So
Absolutely.
whether it's Marico, Dabur, Britannia for that matter, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I've been a long-term investor of Britannia, but now
Yeah.
rethinking based on my own consumption patterns, right?
Hmm. 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 True.
So these are things that, and if you see the last 1 year, India Nifty has rallied, but all these stocks have
Have
underperformed.
not. Have not. Yeah.
Britannia, Marico, HUL, nothing, no returns.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this one theme that you need to think of is how disruption is affecting companies negatively also.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned about one company and then you moved out of that. It was Asian Paints, and I'm sure that
Yes.
that's one industry which is seeing a lot of disruption with
Yes.
so many competitors filling up this space. Something like a Birla Opus, which is
Yes.
like killing it right now. So
JSW.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
Asian Paints, if I'm not mistaken, again same old story. Like last 1 to 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, it has barely
No
any
returns. Yeah.
returns. So
Yeah.
is the paint industry overcrowded right now? Thought at industry
So
level.
I'll tell you, I've been an Asian Paints investor for many years. 2 years
Mm,
ago, I realized that there's no return.
mm,
So I moved out of it
mhm.
and I sold it, whatever. And now, of course, Birla Opus and all have come into play. Now, what happens now? Again, it's this whole legacy issue, right?
Yeah.
Legacy companies, they were great in their time, but if you don't adapt, then now adapting also is a leadership adapting,
True.
change in leadership. That's very important. I'm
Yeah.
not saying Asian Paints what they're doing is I'm sure they're doing the best for their company, but I'm just saying that if you want to survive, now you have a large management like Birla Opus coming out.
Yeah.
If you see dealers are being incentivized, I mean, I've gone to the market because I was doing a paint job at home. Every dealer is now telling you, aap Birla Opus use karo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because they are getting, I think dealer incentives are
Better
higher.
commissions, maybe. Yeah.
Better
Yeah.
commissions, yeah. So you have these small changes eventually lead to, so it's not just disruption from new startups or disruptive players, smaller players, it's disruption from large organizations
Mm,
also,
mm.
right?
Correct.
And then there is, of course, commodity issues, margins are thinning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as an investor, you need to smell these changes
Correct.
and realize what is,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, markets have, I mean, of course, barring Friday session, markets have been like around 10% correction, right?
Yeah.
Every other person wants to know that how can we determine whether this is like the bottom, or is there is there some more fall which is pending? How can one sense that, okay, there are signs that markets are bottoming out and now maybe there could be a reversal? Any signs that you can talk?
Um, See, you can't catch the bottom. You
That is
can't.
true. That is true.
It could go down another 20%, 30%, you never know. But what
Mhm.
I do as an investor, I'll tell you, every 10% fall in the market, I put a lump sum.
Correct.
So I have my mutual fund portfolio going on and direct stocks portfolio going on. In my mutual fund, in my index funds, every 10% fall, I put a lump sum amount. Whatever's lying with me, right? Through
Correct.
my income, through my salary, koi bonus aaya, koi increment aaya, I put lump sum every 10%. Then
Correct.
in my direct stock portfolio, I will go through it and I remove all my underperformers.
Hmm.
So like for example, I go through my portfolio and I see एक साल में निफ्टी बढ़ा है, ब्रिटानिया बिल्कुल नहीं बढ़ा है.
Hmm.
Cash out, book out. Don't be emotional कि वो
Correct.
ब्रिटानिया है,
Correct.
large cap है. Book out.
Hmm.
Churn into another stock. Keep your portfolio. Remove your underperformers, especially in a falling market. You're getting a chance to remove kachra out of portfolio basically, which we don't end up doing when the market is rallying, because when the market is rallying, everything rallies, right?
Correct. So you're
Even
talking about a Swachh portfolio abhiyan.
Yeah, Swachh portfolio abhiyan. Because when the market rallies, everything rallies. So then
True.
you don't get that clear sight of what to remove, what to take, because banks are also PSU is also rallying and good quality is also rallying. So
Yeah.
clean
Yeah.
up your portfolio and then identify companies. Don't try to catch the bottom, but two, three things that you should do is when the market is falling, stay
Hmm.
away from small caps, stay away
True.
from penny stocks, stay away from
True.
underperformers.
Hmm.
Stay away from companies that have bad balance sheets. Stay away from companies that have high debt equity. Stay away
Hmm.
from companies that have corporate governance issues. So just make this three or four things. There's no point saying, अच्छा अभी 5% और गिरा तो मैं डालूंगी.
Hmm. Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
because you can never catch that. And
Yeah.
signs of recovery, I'm telling you now, I've been there. I've heard people for 20 years talking about the markets. Nobody knows, Rachna. No one knows the
Yeah.
best, the most savviest investor, and no offense to anybody, has no clue what is happening.
100%.
Everyone is only talking to each other and क्या लग रहा है, क्या लग रहा है, क्या लग रहा है. Talking to an assumption that अच्छा शायद bottom होएगा, अच्छा शायद. There's no point. In fact, I feel as an investor, bear markets are a blessing. I
Hmm.
feel like in my investing journey of 12, 13 years, I saw two big bear markets, 2008 and 2020.
Yeah.
I feel I got my freedom because of that. The bear market, when at that time it was gut wrenching because my portfolio fell by 50%. But
Yeah.
I got the courage and I pumped in big time when the portfolio fell 50%. And that alpha was,
True. True.
so I will say, oh, 20%. I wish young people in their 20s, early 30s, see bear markets.
100%.
Because wealth is only created in a bear market. Bull markets
So
don't
true.
make wealth for anybody.
So true. So true.
And
But
I feel, yeah, go ahead.
so you very well pointed this out. Two things what I could take here, that yes, wealth is created in bear markets. Second point you said was like cut your losers and ride on your winners,
Yeah.
the strategy that you pointed out.
Yes.
But in such a falling market, if I were to identify some good companies,
Hmm.
so maybe it was just like one bad result this time because of which it has taken a beating, but
Hmm.
otherwise the long-term trajectory is good. So how
Correct.
can one identify such companies to start investing in such big falls?
So I'll give you an example of ICICI Bank. Okay.
Okay.
Even in today's market, after 10% fall, if you see ICICI Bank is still close to its 52-week high.
True.
Right? There was a massive change in leadership that happened in ICICI
Yeah.
Bank a few years ago. And after that, the way that stock has zoomed, right? So identify companies that are fundamentally very strong
Mhm.
and are giving you an opportunity to buy. So for Apollo Hospitals, for example, I'm a
Yeah.
disclaimer, I'm a long-term investor in that stock, but
Mhm.
Apollo Hospitals had, I think even now it's sitting at close to its 52-week high.
Mhm.
It a few years ago started Apollo 24/7, right?
Mhm.
In its own space, it disrupted. It
Wow.
started now Apollo 24/7, first from being loss making, has now become profitable. I
Got it.
think EBITDA break even they've seen, right?
Mm.
Great management, very good, lineage, solid business in a
Mm.
growing space. Medical tourism is picking up in a big way. Right
True.
now, they're doing Apollo 24/7. So pick businesses like this where you're seeing that despite, the world crashing around them, their business is solid. Medical inflation itself is 15% now.
True.
So,
True. True.
you one visit to the hospital in a tier one or a metro, one
Correct.
visit to the hospital, you will not come out without shelling 10 lakhs or 5 lakhs, right?
True. True. True.
India has become the diabetic hub of the world. So I'm just saying that find these companies, maybe companies that are in high growth sectors. So, like I gave you this example of Indian hotels, stock has doubled
Correct.
in 1 year,
Correct.
right? You see this 48 lakh weddings that's happening in 1 month in India.
Mm.
Somebody has to book rooms, right?
True. True.
And I have a personal affiliation, personal, knowledge, information about Indian hotels because my husband is a wedding planner.
Yeah.
He is in this industry and he does not have a date free in this whole season. And he
Mm.
tells me, he's like, Sonia, Jaipur is
Mm.
become like a, he's in Jaipur currently. He's like, Jaipur is become like, Jaipur hotels have become like train stations. One family comes in, unka wedding khatam ho gaye, they step out, the next family is there, unka wedding khatam karke they step
Oh
out.
God.
He's like, it's crazy. It's like, it's non-stop. That luxury experience is not there anymore because people are only, they are like, इसका वो सेट निकल रहा है फिर उसका सेट आ रहा है इसका सेट निकल रहा है फिर वो सेट रात को उधर साइड में रख रहे हैं फिर सुबह में अगेन वो मंडप का सेट डाल रहे हैं इट्स बिकम लाइक
Oh
दैट
my God. Classic example of premiumization that you mentioned a few minutes ago.
Yes, yeah, classic example of premiumization. And this is not only Indians living in India, NRIs, global, citizens coming to India, getting married in Jaipur, Udaipur. You go, in fact, you go to, even for a holiday, you go to a hotel like a Rambagh Palace in Udaipur, you are paying
Mm.
top dollar. You
Yeah.
you are paying as much as you would pay for, a hotel, say, much more than a hotel you're paying in Dubai or in Thailand or wherever.
Yeah. Yeah. And still people are happily booking these, luxury hotels.
Yeah, so weddings is like a very emotional, it's like that emotional expense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're happy making it.
True, true, true. While you were talking about Indian hotels, you also mentioned that almost double in a year, right?
Yeah.
So those investors who miss such buses that,
Mm.
Array, I should have invested in Indian hotels or whatever, whichever stock which has, let us say, doubled in 1 year. The big question that these people have is that what if I want to enter now? How do
Yeah.
they analyze such a situation?
So I am that investor. I always feel that. I always feel, oh no, when Trent
Uh,
when Trent had gone up 30%, I was like, अच्छा मुझे और लेना चाहिए था Trent का. Then it went up 50% from there. I'm like, oh, अच्छा, I missed the bus. But you'll never. It's always like that.
yeah,
How much is enough, right?
true, true.
They say like you can never be too rich or too thin, right? So you'll always be like, oh, acha, nahi, I could have gotten a little higher. So I feel like you have to just understand one thing. You have to see there's something called rate of change.
Mhm.
A lot of people talk about that. What is the disruption that's happening? And what is of course, valuations are very important. Like right now, I feel stocks like, say, Dixon Tech. I love that company, Dixon Tech, but
Yeah,
valuations are just too high, right? So
true.
if you've not got into Dixon Tech, sorry, you missed it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it could go higher than this, but I can't justify those valuations. Similar with
true.
Trent, I feel like Trent has sort of, and now there's so much, now they're getting into new things, they're getting into these, whatever, that fake diamonds and all that. So I
Mm.
feel all of that, maybe the run is done. I may be wrong,
Mhm.
but even Titan, same thing, right? But I
Yeah,
feel if you know that there is a rate of change where there is a big disruption happening and the company is riding that disruption,
yeah.
then I feel it's not too late to get in, despite
Mm.
premium valuations.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Now, talking again about Q2 numbers that we just spoke some time ago, that the profit growth was not that great. Uh, the GDP growth rate Q2 numbers are, I think, expected on the 29th, and there are speculations that it could be lower as compared to the 6.5% which was being talked about. It could be somewhere between 6.3 or 6.5%. So, overall, people do see some sort of slowdown in the economy right now. So anyone who is wanting to invest, like you mentioned, right? Let's say every 5% fall or every 10% fall, people are going to put in money, extra money in the market. Agreed. But what could be a time frame within which they could expect? I'm not asking an exact time from you, but what could be a general expectation that we could reach the previous all-time highs? Any, I mean, could there be a way through which I can gauge that maybe I should be patient enough till the next whatever, till March 25 or till June 25, or till what? Should I remain calm? Should I keep on pumping more money with an expectation that yes, it is going to go back to the previous all-time highs, and in fact, it will go further up as well. So, what is my time frame of patience that an investor should have in the current run?
Okay, that's a tough one. That's a good question, though. But see, I mean, I cannot predict that because I feel like there's no point predicting that, In every, at least, so I'll give you some numbers, right? I mean, if you look at it,
Mhm.
in COVID, there was a 35% drawdown in the markets when it
Yeah.
went from, I think, COVID high was 12,000 Nifty. It
Mhm.
went down to 8,000.
Yeah.
It was 12,000 Nifty. Today we are 26,000 or 23,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in COVID, people thought, oh my God, my shirt off my back is gone. And it
Mm.
was. People lost their jobs, people lost their income, people lost their stock market earnings, right?
Right.
After that 35% drawdown in the market in COVID, right? In the next 4 years, the market went up 220% from
Yeah.
8,000 low Nifty to 25,000 Nifty, right?
Mm.
I mean, there is no end to the market upside. It is
Mm.
the same as ever. As Morgan Housel new book. I just finished reading it. It's called
Okay.
Same as Ever. It's a very good book. You should
I
read it.
think you had put that up on Insta story, if I'm
Yes,
not
yes, yes. He
mistaken.
actually is the author of Psychology of Money, and he got a new book. So I was like, waiting to get my hands on it. So I picked it up, and in that book, he writes that the cycles, the market cycles are the same.
Mm.
Always we say this time it's different. But it's never different. It's always the same. So
Correct.
you when you are in a bear market or in a correction, you always feel like, oh, the next time will never come. We'll have to be really patient. You may have to be patient 3 years, 4 years, but
Correct.
every 4 years or every 5 years, if you see, the
Mhm.
market takes a turn from whichever way it is,
True, true, true.
right? And I feel like you need to just understand that you have to detach yourself from the market
Mm.
cycles.
Mm.
Detach yourself from the market cycles because what you are looking at is the goal, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
looking at the goal that the all-time high kabhi aayega. That is your goal.
yeah.
Don't focus on the goal. Focus on the process. The
Mm.
process is
Mm.
more enjoyable because that goal is, like we say, right? Goalposts keep changing. So
True.
focus on the process, focus on your research, focus on picking great companies, good managements, right?
Mm.
I mean,
Mm.
there are so many managements that have changed the way companies have, like Chandra, for example, in Chandra of Tata Group. I mean,
Yeah,
since he has come on board, Tata Group's fortunes have completely changed.
true, true,
Right. Similarly, Sandeep Bakshi, ICICI Bank, all of these people, right? So focus on all of this, focus on research. The market
true.
cycles will keep happening.
Yeah. I mean, I could correlate that song "सफर खूबसूरत है मंजिल से भी." That's
Yeah, yeah.
right.
So
Amazing.
it's actually the market is a great
Yeah.
way to, also get into. I mean, a lot of market experts that I speak to
Yeah.
go down this path of spirituality also,
Hmm.
because eventually what happens is market is all about greed and fear, right?
True.
So you have to learn detachment in such a way that you don't get greedy also and you don't get fearful also. So that is kind of like an internal journey, right?
I think in Gita there is a word called sthita prajna. Yeah, sthita pragya. It means that your mental state should be same on the happiest day of your life and on the saddest day of your life as well.
Yes.
So I
Default
think
state of happiness. Yes.
that, I mean, good to talk about it, but I'm not sure when market corrects by 5% on a single day, will people be able to really achieve that or not?
I feel the worst for people who manage other people's money. So I
Exactly.
talk to a lot of people who manage money, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And for them, it's very hard because, see, managing your emotions is one thing. Managing other thousand people's other emotions is very hard. So they are the true masters because they have mastered the art of detaching from their own emotions and other people's emotions.
So true, so true. क्या बात है, अमेजिंग.
You might have come across such advertisements on various social media platforms. Please note, all of these are fraudsters promising unbelievable returns through stock tips. I don't provide any calls or advisory services. I provide only educational content through my social media handles and through my website rachanaranade.com and rachanaranade.in.